Okay, so there's two ways to think about this problem. I have y equals x squared minus 10x plus 24. So I can look at the roots right here. This one's approximately x equals 6, and this one right here is approximately x equals 4. If I were to put this into two binomials, I know I would have to do the opposite to make them equal to 0. So I put an x here. Because this is positive 4, this would be negative 4, and this would be negative 6. If I were to refoil this, I know that these last numbers would be multiplied together to equal plus 24. Because plus 24 is over here, I know that this one, letter A, would be my answer. Another way to approach it is that I know that my A value is 1 and that it's a positive 1. So this is a positive 1. I know that positive A values open up this way. They open up. Whereas if I have something that opens up down, that means that it has a negative A value, because we know, for example, gravity is negative 16, and that gravity parabolas open up downwards. Okay, this is a linear inequality, which is basically the same thing as an equation. I have my y equals mx plus b, and I got my b value because my y-intercept is 1. So for that, I put positive 1. For my m value, I did rise over run. This line goes down 1 and then over 1, so negative 1 is the rise, 1 is the run, making the m value simplify down to negative 1. My equation then becomes y equals negative 1x plus 1. But since this is an inequality, I need to change this sign. This is a solid line, so I know that one of them has to be equal. And because it is shaded above the line, that means y is greater than. So this turns into y is greater than or equal to negative 1x plus 1. Okay, here I have a quadratic equation, which I know I need to factor. Right now I have f of x equals negative 10x squared plus 20x. First step always is you want to look and see if there's a GCF. The GCF is going to be 10, so I'm going to take 10 out. If I take 10 out, actually you should take a negative 10 out. If I take a negative 10 out, this leaves x squared. 20x divided by negative 10 is negative 2x. And now I can keep my negative 10 on the outside, but then foil this. Or sorry, do the opposite of foiling this. X is in each binomial, and then I want to see, I can add a plus 0 at the end. What multiplies to equal 0 and adds to equal negative 2? Well, I know that anything times 0 will give me 0. So 0 plus what is going to give me negative 2? Well, negative 2 will do that. So I have my two factors right here, and to find the zeros, because it's hitting the ground, which I know means find the zeros, I do the opposite. So I can keep negative 10 on the outside. Well, this will be x equals positive 2, and for this binomial, it'll be x equals 0. How many seconds does it take for the rocket to hit the ground? It starts off at the ground at 0, and then at 2 seconds, right here, it will hit the ground again. So if I were to imagine that it starts at 0, and then right here, x would equal 2 seconds. Right here I have a vertex. I know that the formula for a vertex is x equals negative b over 2a, where my a value here is 1, my b value is 10, and my c value is 25. So negative b, that's going to be negative 10 over 2 times 1 as my a value. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So x equals negative 5, but it's looking for the y value. All I need to do is plug in negative 5 for these x values. So I'll do that on the calculator. I have negative 5 squared plus 10 times negative 5 plus 25. So my y value will equal 0. All right, our three options again for what type of function. We have linear, which is going to be a straight line. We have exponential, which is going to go up like this or down like this. And we also have a quadratic, which will be a parabola up or a parabola down. So 2% each year, because there's a percentage, this is going to be exponential. 3 inches per year, that is a constant rate of change. This one is going to be linear. Flicks an ant off its staff and into the air. So anything that goes into the air comes back down like this. This is going to be quadratic. $124 on breakfast per day. That again is constant. That'll be linear. And then doubles annually. That is a percentage. That's 200%. So this will be exponential. Okay, so we know this is going to be a linear equation because this is in the form y equals mx plus b. So if I were to imagine this, the y-intercept is negative 1,000, and then it's just going up in a linear fashion. Okay, so what is the meaning of the slope? The slope is 25. It's being multiplied by calculators, so that means it's $25 per calculator. What is the meaning of the y-intercept? Well, that is down here in negative 1,000. So we know y is dollars and x is calculators. If it starts off at negative $1,000, that means she is negative $1,000 in debt in the beginning. What is the meaning of the x-intercept? Right here is the x-intercept, and the amount of money will equal $0. So what does that mean at $0? Well, that means that that is the break-even point. Okay, super simple problem where we are gonna FOIL first, outer, inner, last. So this first one right here is 4x. When I FOIL this here, that is negative 2x squared. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16, and then negative 8 times negative x is positive 8x. I can combine this one and this one, leaving negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 16. To solve for this, I want to get this into y equals mx plus b form, so I'm going to do that by getting y by itself. So when I do that, these cancel, leaving 4y equals negative 2x plus 10. I divide all those terms by 4 to get y by itself, leaving y equals negative 2 over 4, which simplifies down to negative 1 over 2x. And then 10 divided by 4 is 2.5. So I can leave that. And now I have a point going through an x value of 8 and a y value of 2. So these lines are running parallel. So I'm going to use this. Parallel lines have the same slope. So I'm going to use this m value right here, which is negative 1/2. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus, and I do not know what the b value is, so I leave it as b. I can, however, substitute this x value and this y value. The y value is 2. The x value is 8. And I'm still solving for b. Negative 1/2 times 8 is negative 4 plus b, and I drop down the 2. To solve for b, I add 4 on both sides, and these cancel, leaving b equals 6. So I have my same slope, negative 1/2. I have my new b value, which is 6. So the parallel line would be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 6. Okay, very similar to last line, except for we're doing perpendicular, which means that I'm looking for the negative reciprocal for the slope value. So right here, again, I want to make this into a slope-intercept form, so I'm going to solve for y by itself. I subtract 10x from both sides. This leaves negative 2y, 0 doesn't really matter, equals negative 10x. I divide both sides by negative 2 to get y equals negative 10 divided by negative 2 is 5x. So that is my equation for the first line. Now, because I want to take the negative reciprocal, m right here is 5, which means that the negative reciprocal is going to be negative, and then I flip this. This is technically 5 over 1. It becomes negative 1 over 5. So my new equation will be y equals negative 1 over 5x plus b. We do not know what that is, but the y-intercept actually gives it to us is 8, so my new equation will be negative 1 over 5x, which is the negative reciprocal, plus my y-intercept of 8. Okay, so I know I have 3 consecutive positive integers. I'm going to set up a table like this. I begin with n. My next positive integer, so the next consecutive positive integer will be n plus 1, and the one after that will be n plus 2. So it says, what is the middle? So if I'm looking for the middle, this is the smallest, middle, largest. At the end, I need to come back to the middle one of the consecutive positive integers. If the product, I know the product means multiplication of the smaller two. So I'm going to take the smaller two, this is the smallest one, this is the next smallest one, and multiply them. That becomes n times n plus 1. And that is the product of the two smallest integers. Is means equals. And then I'll do the next one, 5 less than. So 5 less than means at the end I'm going to do minus 5. 5 times means that I'm going to multiply something by 5. The largest integer is n plus 2. So this one right here is 5 less than 5 times the largest integer, which is n plus 2. And now I'm going to solve. I distribute this n right here. This becomes n squared plus n. And on this side, I have 5n plus 10, and I bring down my minus 5. When I simplify that, that becomes n squared plus n. Can't change that, but I can combine these ones. 5n, and then 10 minus 5 is positive 5. And now I can see that there's a quadratic equation because this one is n squared. So let's move it all to one side and set it equal to 0. In order to do that, I'm going to subtract 5 and n and 5 from this side. So this becomes n squared. And then if I subtracted 5n from this, 1n minus 5n is minus 4n, and then I bring down a negative 5. These cancel, so it all equals 0. Right here, I can figure out what the n values are by putting them into two binomials. So, just like this, I want to figure out what is going to multiply to equal negative 5 and then add to equal negative 4. So I have x in both of these. The factors of 5 are 5 and 1. So I know that is those are my numbers that need to go in there. And then what signs are going to give negative 4? Negative 5 and positive 1 are going to give negative 4. So these are my answers. So my possible answers for n are x equals positive 5 and then x equals negative 1. Now, which one of these is going to be the answer? Positive integers, so I can't have a negative here. It's going to be this positive 5. So now I'm going to plug this in. If my x value or my n value is 5, the smallest number is 5. The next one, 5 plus 1 is 6. And the next one after that is going to be 7. Go back to the question. It says, which is the middle one? My final answer is going to be 6. Okay, so I could go through all of these and, make these into two binomials. So for example, x plus 3 squared would be x plus 3 times x plus 3, and then I have the negative 1 on the outside. So I could do that for literally all of those. Let's do it for A. This becomes x squared plus 3x, and then 3x here. And the last number is 9 minus 1. Well, when I combine these, this is x squared plus 6x, and then 9 minus 1 is plus 8. So I know A is not the option. The shortcut is that when I have a square, I know that this back number, just like I saw here, 3 and 3 will give me my constant. So for this one, 3 squared was 9, and then minus 1 is not going to give me positive 10. Right here, negative 3 squared, that is 9 again, plus 1, that is going to give me 10, so I'm going to keep this one. Right here, 6 squared, that is 36, and then minus 10 is 26. That's not going to give me 10, so I can X that out. Negative 6 squared is 36, and then plus 10 is going to give me 46. That is not my constant of positive 10, so my final answer needs to be B. When I'm solving for a 0, I know that I'm setting this equal to 0. Because I have a constant, I have no B value, so I can just solve using square roots. Add 49 to both sides. This leaves x squared equals 49. What I want to do to undo the square is to take the square root, and then I have x, and then I know the square root of 49 yields two answers, positive 7 and negative 7. Because it's asking for what the positive one is, my answer is going to be positive 7. Midpoint literally means halfway through, so the equations, you don't need to memorize this, you just need to understand. I'm going to take the x values and divide it by 2, and then I'm going to take both of the y values and divide it by 2, and this will be my ordered pair. So right here I have -4, -1, and right here I have 5, 3. So if I do that, let's do the x values first, 5 and -4. 5 plus -4 over 2. 5 plus -4 is 1 over 2 is 1/2. Like I said, this is my x value. Now let's do the y values. My y value is -1, and then I'm going to add 3. Remember to divide it by 2 for the midway point. -1 plus 3 is 2 over 2, and that's going to give me 1. So right now I have 1/2 and I have 1. When I put it together, my x value is 1/2, my y value is 1. If I want to double check, 1/2 is right here, 1 is right here. That looks like the midpoint, so I know that this answer is correct. When I have systems, I have 2 ways to solve it. One is going to be substitution, the other way is going to be elimination. Because I have a variable by itself right here, that y equals, I know that substitution is going to be my best bet. So what I'm going to do, because the y here and y here are equal, I'm going to take what y equals and substitute it in for this y right here. So when I rewrite it, I'll have -3x minus 3, and instead of y, I'm going to write -5x minus 17, and then don't forget to bring down the equals 3 at the end. And now it's just as simple as solving this. I'm going to distribute this -3, drop down the -3x here in the front. -3 times -5x is plus 15x. -3 times -17 is plus 51, and then I drop down my 3 on the opposite side. I can add these two right here. That becomes 12x. I drop down, actually let's just subtract 51 while we're at it. 3 minus 51 is going to be -48. So I have 12x equals -48. My last step is to divide by 12 on both sides. I have x equals -4. Let's see if that answers the question. It does not, because it's looking for the y value. So all I need to do is pick the easier equation. The bottom one is going to be the easier equation because the y is by itself. And I'm going to plug in -4 instead of 5, or instead of x. So this becomes y equals -5 times -4 minus 17. When I do that, y equals 20 minus 17, and my final answer is going to be y equals 3. Okay, when I want to visualize this, I always want to draw the shape. So I have a rectangle where I have width, length, and length. Okay, the width of a rectangle is 1/3 of its length. So W equals 1/3 L on both sides. And then I have my lengths on either side. So the perimeter is 24 inches. So I know perimeter means I'm going to add all of them. So I'm going to do 1/3 L plus 1/3 L plus L plus L equals 24. And I'm going to combine. 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2/3. So I have 2/3 L plus 2L equals 24. When I combine this, I can put this, well, 2/3 and 2. So I can multiply 2 times 3 and then add 2. This improper fraction would be 8/3. L equals 24. And my last step is to divide to get L by itself by 8/3. When I divide by a fraction, it's the same thing as multiplying. So this here would become 24 times 3/8, because when I divide by a fraction, I can multiply it by its reciprocal. I can put this over 1, and then 24 times 3 is going to give me 72. 1 times 8 is going to give me 8, and then 72 divided by 8 is 9. So L equals 9. How long is the length? So I answered that question. Length is 9. Length is 9, and if I wanted to go the extra step, 1/3 times L, 1/3 times 9 is 3, so my width is 3, and then my width is 3. When I add these up, 3 plus 9 plus 3 plus 9, that gives me a perimeter of 24. So L is 9. Okay, again, I want to draw my picture. So I have a 13-foot ladder. 13-foot ladder resting against the wall. The top of the wall is 12 feet up, and then how much is the base? So I don't know what this is. Pythagorean theorem, when I have a right triangle like this, is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My a value is here, this is my b value, and this is my c value. If I'm solving for this one, then I can just do subtraction. So I can put 13 squared here, 12 squared is my a value, and I do not know what my b value is. But I can simplify this. This becomes 144, 169 on this side, and again, I'm solving for b. When I subtract from both sides, 169 minus 144, these cancel, leaving 25 equals b squared. And to undo the square, I take the square root. So my b value is the square root of 25, which is going to be which is going to be 5 feet.